Greetings, bookworms of Concord. Pastor Beckett's here with a review of Halo: The Fall of Reach by Eric Nylund. This is actually my third time reading this book. I remember when it first came out when I was in 6th or 7th grade, the same year that the game Halo Combat Evolved was released on the original Xbox, which was 2001. And, I was just stoked because I loved Halo, I still do, and the title of the book promised to tell us a story we knew very little about at the time, and everyone knew it was about how the Master Chief became the Master Chief. I read the heck out of it because I remember the spine was all falling apart, so this is not the same copy that I had back then. But yeah, the spine was falling apart, and I don't know what I did to make that happen. Probably just being too rough with it when transporting it around in my school backpack. But the unfortunate thing is, like most of the early Halo books, it has a lot of typos and grammatical errors and spelling errors. And the letters F and I are always missing when reading computer transcripts in the book, like when Dr. Halsey's reading something on her computer or something like that, which is incredibly annoying. And I don't know why the editors just can't do their jobs right. But I'm going to judge the book based on the merits of the narrative rather than the editor's incompetence, because it's not fair to the author. But there is another edition of this book, the definitive edition, I believe it's called. It has a different cover, and it's basically like, if you've seen the cover of the original Doom games, it's basically that cover, but replace the Space Marine with the Master Chief and replace the demons with the Flood. No, actually, I'm thinking of Halo: The Flood, not Halo: The Fall of Reach. But it does have, the definitive edition of Halo: The Fall of Reach does have a different cover. And in that definitive edition, I believe they fixed all those spelling and grammatical errors. But when I repurchased this book, I decided to purchase this first edition because, it's the original, so why not? But anyway, moving on, let's just get into the story. If you don't know what this is about, it's the origin story of the Master Chief, whom we play as in most of the Halo video games, who became a Spartan 2 through ethically debatable means. It tells the tale of the war between the United Nations Space Command, or UNSC for short, with the human insurrectionists rebelling against this militarized government called the UNSC, and as well as the unexpected first contact with the alien menagerie of religious zealots called the Covenant, as they declare war against all humanity. It's also about the fall of the planet Reach, as the title spoils for you, which was one of the primary naval yards of the UNSC. So the loss of Reach was a major setback for humanity, as well as a deeply personal loss for John, the Master Chief. So the book begins with John's recruitment into the Spartan 2 program, who is later promoted to Master Chief Petty Officer, and originally designed to combat the rebel insurrectionists. The development of the Spartan 2 program was rather fortuitous with the introduction of the Covenant. And because, without these enhanced super soldiers, there would have been no contest between the Covenant and humanity because of the former's vastly superior technology and the significantly stronger warrior race called the Elites, as well as the barbarian brutes. Spartans and Elites are evenly matched in hand-to-hand combat, and brutes are even tougher. So without the Spartans, humanity definitely would not have survived first contact. You also read about the introduction of the Mark V Mjolnir armor. My cat is being insane. Piano, calm down. You're making a lot of noise. Anyway, you also read about the Mark V Mjolnir armor that only Spartans can wear, and why only they can wear them, which was pivotal in the Spartans' overall effectiveness. In one of the motifs that plays throughout for the Master Chief is a lesson his childhood trainer, Chief Mendez, taught him when most of the Spartans suffered the terrible side effects of their augmentation procedure, which is the difference between a life wasted and a life spent. Which is a difficult distinction every military leader has to make when giving combat orders. It really gives you further insight into John's psyche you otherwise don't get in the games, and it's a very human problem, right? Which is important to see because the Marines and other unaugmented humans cannot help but see the Spartans as robots because of their massive size and their powered suits, the Mjolnir armor. And you get to see some normal human emotions displayed in John that is otherwise hidden beneath his Spartan armor in the games. And the emotions that he also consciously suppresses because of his training or his indoctrination, you might say. You also get a glimpse of what could be a fault in John's character. Ever since he was a kid, before he was selected for the Spartan 2 program, all he cares about is winning. To him, winning is everything because the only alternative is losing, which to him is unacceptable. It's not that he'll sacrifice human lives just for the sake of winning without a conscience, but if the casualties were unavoidable and yet you still win, he has difficulty understanding why the Navy brass would be so upset. But it does leave you wondering about the Master Chief. During a certain mission in the book, he saves a lot of civilians before nuking an area, but only because it was part of his orders for the mission. So it leaves you wondering, if he didn't have orders to rescue civilians, would he sacrifice their lives for the sake of the mission, or would he put the mission at risk to save innocent civilians, finding a way to both save them and accomplish the mission? If he didn't have orders to rescue civilians, I think he would still find a way to do both, because you do see him order Blue Team to take out a group of grunts during that mission that were on their way to a group of Marines with a lot of wounded, which he didn't have to do. He sacrificed the possibility of giving up his position to the enemy just so the wounded and exhausted Marines wouldn't have to struggle against the Covenant. And as soon as he came across the Marine survivors, he viewed them as people who needed his protection rather than, necessary casualties. He also doesn't unnecessarily kill ODST Marines when he's given orders to neutralize them while testing out his new Mjolnir armor, because he believes the UNSC needs every soldier to fight the Covenant. So he does seem to have the greater picture in mind, at least in a utilitarian sense. Now, one last thing, there is a major error in the timeline, which is not the fault of the book, but the fault of the game developers. The book's timeline does not match the timeline of the game Halo Reach. The book was published 9 years before the game. So in the game, you play as Spartan 3s who sacrificed their lives to bring Cortana to the Pillar of Autumn, which subsequently leaves and activates the Cold Protocol while the Covenant begins glassing the planet. But in the book, the Pillar of Autumn isn't even on Reach at all, but they arrive from elsewhere in defense of the planet and Cortana is already on the Navy cruiser. Then once they realize Reach is lost, they activate the Cole Protocol and depart the Epsilon Eridani system. So if the book's timeline is canonical, it simply doesn't fit the timeline of the game, unless I'm missing something. I actually talked with my brother about this after finishing the book, and he said basically the game Halo Reach retconned the book. So I guess according to, so Bungie was still the developer of the game at the time. So I guess according to Bungie, and still according to 343 Industries, I guess Halo Reach is canonical and this isn't. But for me, I would say this is canonical personally, because I mean, if you take out Halo Reach, if you don't have that game, like nothing changes it doesn't affect the story of the games in any way. So you can still not have the game and the story still still have continuity. But anyway, despite this glaring flaw and the editor's ineptitude, I still give the book 5 out of 5 since it was written before the game. And like I said, the editor's incompetence is not fair to the author. But that's all from me for now. Thank you for watching. If you are a big fan of Halo, I recommend all the books so far. There's still some I haven't read, but I'll be reading through them. Some of them I'll be reading through again, just like this one, and we'll be putting the reviews up. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, and you'll get notified when those other videos come out. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy your reading, and therefore, God bless your reading.